Hi, my name is Andrea, and I'm a master's student studying in Dr. Laura Pollock's lab. Today, I will be presenting my thesis proposal looking at the vulnerability of Canadian birds to climate change. Climate change is said to impact birds around the world, but northern species are particularly vulnerable and understudied. Canada is warming 2 times faster than the rest of the world, and the Canadian Arctic 3 times faster. So it is super important to study these birds that are living and breeding in increasingly more vulnerable habitats. Species distribution models are a widely used tool used to predict a species distribution across a spatial and temporal landscape. So by combining occurrence data and environmental variables, these models can predict a species distribution and provide understanding and information on their current and future distribution. For my thesis, I will be using a species distribution model to assess how Canadian birds will be impacted by climate change. So to do this, I'm going to combine species range data, environmental data, climate data, and anthropogenic variables in my model. And seeing that many species are migratory birds which travel up to the Arctic to breed, I'm going to divide my model into 2 different regions. So I'm going to have one model for breeding ranges and one model for non-breeding ranges, seeing that these variables that I will include are affecting these birds at different times and different severities depending on where they are. Next, I'm going to introduce a trait vulnerability assessment. So with my previous model, I'm going to include species-specific characteristics, and these characteristics are going to represent a bird's sensitivity, exposure, and adaptability to climate change, and I'm going to see if these traits change their distribution. So my end goals are to be able to identify if there are any variables or characteristics that most strongly influence a bird's distribution, or to identify if there are any that are particularly make a bird more vulnerable to climate change, identify any species that will downgrade in their vulnerability status, and identify any regions within Canada that will be undergoing the greatest anticipated change. And so why is this important? It is important so that we can more precisely identify species that will be impacted by climate change and also implement more accurate conservation actions so we know where we need to focus our efforts. This is going to hopefully save time, save money, and hopefully save more birds. Thank you very much. I look forward to answering your questions.